The fact that a person has opened up to you doesn't mean that you should open up to them. Before you begin to open up to people, you have to observe their character. It's important to observe the environment that you're in. Silence is not bad in conversations. Silence is actually not bad, especially when you're trying to get to know someone, or maybe when you're chatting with someone that you don't really know. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Life Lessons with Lau. My name is Loretta Gerard, and on this space we like to have open, honest, authentic, heart-to-heart conversations on everything pertaining to love, life, faith, and womanhood. So if this is your first time listening to the podcast, or maybe you're watching me on YouTube for the first time, you are most welcome. And if you are a returning listener or subscriber, thank you so much for choosing to hang out with me. It feels so good that you keep coming back, so thank you. If you haven't subscribed already, please do well to subscribe. Today I'm talking about oversharing and a few questions that you can ask yourself before you overshare. And before we delve into this, I think oversharing, this is something that we need to talk about a lot more, especially in this day and age, especially with social media and the way that we use the internet these days. But come to think of it, have you ever found yourself in a situation where maybe you're hanging out with friends and then you find yourself saying some certain things or spilling certain private information, and then you end up asking yourself, why did I say that? Or maybe sometimes it's not even private information or intimate information or intimate details about your life. Sometimes it's just completely unnecessary information, right? For example, maybe someone asks you, or someone tells you, oh, these shoes are very nice. And instead of you to say, oh, thank you, you just say, thank you, Jerry. So I got them at a very cheap price. You will not believe that I got them for just $5. And I even begged the woman, and that was the last $5 in my account. Is it necessary information? Probably not, especially if the person that you are explaining all of these or telling all of these details is not someone that is very close to you like that. Maybe it's just your work colleague and you're giving them all of this background information that is completely unnecessary. But yeah, that's an example of oversharing, and we tend to overshare for a number of reasons. Number one, people overshare because they are seeking external validation. They want to be liked and they want to people please, and sometimes we might not even know that we do it. I find myself doing it sometimes, especially when maybe I'm chatting with someone that I admire, or someone that I'm getting out. Maybe I'm trying to be friends with. And there's always that temptation to want to over-explain, give too many details just because you want that person to like you, or you want that person to see you as a good person, or sometimes in our own unnecessary sanctimoniousness. We just want to be perceived as a good person. We just want to be perceived in a certain way. So sometimes you might end up oversharing because you want people to see you in a positive light. You want people to admire you. Basically you just want to people please. You just want to people please sometimes. So another reason why we overshare is due to social anxiety. A lot of us have serious social anxiety, and we don't talk about it so much. Sometimes there's just this pressure where you don't want to be the awkward person, and you don't want to have this very awkward situation where people are talking or people are sharing and you're just quiet or you're just mute, right? Or maybe you're having a conversation with someone and there's this you're trying to avoid that awkward silence, especially if it's someone that you don't really know or someone that you're not really close to. There's always this social anxiety, or should I say this pressure that comes where you feel like you need to fill up the space with something, you need to talk about something, and there's a tendency that you might overshare. There's a tendency that you might just end up saying something that you're not supposed to say just because you're trying to avoid that awkward silence. So I'm here to tell you, look, silence is not bad in conversations. Silence is actually not bad, especially when you're trying to get to know someone, or maybe when you're chatting with someone that you don't really know. Silence is not a bad thing. And instead of oversharing, there are other things that you can do. You can ask questions, based on what the person is telling you about themselves. Listen to what the person is saying and ask questions about those things. So you don't have to overshare or share details about yourself that are just completely unnecessary. The third reason why people tend to overshare is because we have erroneously labeled oversharing as vulnerability. But there's a difference between vulnerability and unhealthy, or should I say, emotional dumping. I see that a lot online, where people are, in a bid to be vulnerable, come on the internet and start spilling all their business, when you really don't have to do that. Like, the fact that you're trying to be vulnerable, vulnerability is supposed to be motivated by the need to connect. But when you come on the internet and then you're sharing things that you're not supposed to share because you're trying to be vulnerable, it begs the question, like, what exactly are you trying to do? Are you trying to get a pity party, or are you trying to just seek validation from people? But yeah, it's one of the reasons why people overshare, because they're trying to connect with other people. They're trying to maybe build a community of people who understand them, which is not bad in and of itself, but it's just when you overdo it and then that vulnerability becomes your identity, that is when it becomes a problem, where you are latching on to that vulnerability, or you're taking advantage of that vulnerability, or you are taking up that vulnerable situation as your identity to draw people into you. It doesn't help you heal, because at the end of the day, you're going to just be gathering people who are, instead of healing, all they do is talk about that particular situation, talk about it, and hold it up as their identity. Anyway, so now we have looked at the reasons why people overshare, let's now have a look at the things that you can do to share less. So what are some of the questions that you need to ask yourself before you share something? I'm going to be sharing 4 questions that you can ask yourself before you share something. Question number 1: what is the motivation behind this information that I am about to share? Why do I want to share this information? What is the intention behind it? Am I seeking validation, or can I share my point? Can I pass my point across without sharing this information? The motivation, the reason it's important for us to always check ourselves, to ask, why am I sharing this information? Why do I feel the need to share this information? Will this information buttress what I'm trying to say? Or is it just completely unnecessary in this situation? And sometimes you find out that information that you think you want to share to, enhance the message that you're trying to pass might be just completely unnecessary. Perhaps you can just pass your message across without talking about things that you're not supposed to talk about, right? For example, maybe you want to talk about, maybe you're at work and you want to talk about, and your colleague asks you, so how did you spend your weekend, or how did you spend your vacation? You don't have to go into the nitty gritty of how you and your husband had a fight and things, and there was a lot of screaming. That is unnecessary information. They don't need that information. They don't need it. So you just go and give them the surface of it. Oh, it was nice. We did this, we did that. And that's pretty much it. So sometimes you can just pass your message across without you going deep into intricate details. The second question you need to ask yourself before you overshare is, does this person need that information? Or am I just trying to suck up to them? Or am I just trying to portray myself as something or as someone? does this person really need the information? And I'm going to be honest with you. The fact that a person has opened up to you doesn't mean that you should open up to them. And I know that I understand the importance of reciprocity in sharing, but in that reciprocity, you have to also be able to vet the person that you are reciprocating to. Right. So if this is someone that you don't really have a close relationship with, or someone whose character you cannot really vouch for, or someone you don't really, someone you're just generally not really close to like that, and that person is vulnerable with you or shares something intimate or shares something private with you, you don't have to match that person's vulnerability. You don't have to. And the reason I'm saying this is because there's always that, that feeling you can kind of feel indebted, and you kind of feel like sometimes it feels like, oh, this person has trusted me with very important information. I need to also show them that I equally trust them with very important information, even though maybe you don't really trust them with that information. You don't have to reciprocate by sharing private details, because what if that person is saying is not true? Have you thought about that? What if that person is just sharing this information with you in the hopes that they can get you to share something with them that they probably, are suspecting about you, probably don't know about you, right? So you don't have to reciprocate. The fact that someone shares something private with you doesn't mean that you need to also reciprocate by sharing something private with them, especially if you don't really know that person, or especially if you don't really have a close relationship with that person. So ask yourself, do I need to share this information? Do I need to? If you don't need to, zip it. Just listen, empathize, but zip it. The third question, and this is just off the back of what I just said, the third question you need to ask yourself before you overshare is, can I trust this person? Is this a safe environment to share? You have to, before you begin to open up to people, you have to observe their character. What do they do with information? There are people that, let me give an example. Let's say maybe three friends are hanging out, right? And in that, while they were hanging out, one friend says, oh, you guys will not believe that I bought this perfume maybe for $10. And maybe this is a perfume that is usually sold for like $50. And the person is like, do you not believe that I bought this perfume for $10? I always like to buy my perfumes when they're on sale because I get them at a much cheaper price, right? And all three of you just kind of laugh about that. And let's say after that time, everyone is, maybe three of you are again hanging out, but maybe there are like three extra people with you guys, and then you're all chatting and you're all talking, and one person tells this other person that bought that perfume like, oh, you smell really nice. And then one other person now says, this one that's always buying cheap perfume, she likes to buy perfumes when it's on sale. That should tell you something, that this person that has said that thing is not someone you can trust with important private information. When people show you who they are, believe them. And the reason I say this is it's important to be aware of the environment that you're in. It's important to observe the environment that you're in, right? And so before you begin to open your mouth and share certain things with certain people, with a certain person, ask yourself, can I trust this person with this information? Or is this person the kind of person that has a leaking mouth, and that person will just open their mouth and just say it random? And see, let me tell you something. The truth is that not everyone is self-aware. Not everyone is socially aware, right? And a lot of people don't know how they come off or how they behave in social situations, right? And so it doesn't mean that they are bad people. It's just that they are not very self-aware. So you have to know when you watch people, when you observe how they behave, then you know whether or not you can trust them with certain kinds of information. And so if you've observed that this particular person doesn't really do well when it comes to keeping things in confidence, you are better off not sharing things with that person. It doesn't make the person a bad person per se. It's just that you just know that this person is someone that cannot be trusted with private information, period. Right? So yeah, ask yourself, is this a safe environment? Is this person safe enough to hold whatever it is that I share with them in confidence? And the fourth and final question is, ask yourself, who will be impacted by my sharing of this information? Whose reputation could potentially be damaged by me sharing this information? Will the way that people perceive this person or that I want to talk about, or the situation, or if I share this information with, will someone be perceived in a particular way when I share this information, and I don't want that person to be perceived in a particular way? These are things that you need to ask yourself. So for example, if you want to talk about, maybe you're talking about something and you find yourself wanting to share maybe about your sibling or maybe about your husband. Ask yourself, if I share this information, will it potentially impact how my husband is perceived? If I share this information, will it potentially impact my husband's reputation or my father's reputation or my siblings' reputation, right? So when you understand the damage that you sharing that information could potentially do to someone that you care about or someone that you love, then you're like, okay, you know what? All good. Breathe in, breathe out. I'm not talking about this. So these are the 4 questions that I think you should ask yourself before you overshare. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Do you think there are other questions that we need to ask ourselves before we share important information? Let me know in the comments. One thing though that I would say that I've learned to do over time, because trust me, I'm also guilty of oversharing sometimes, but I'm slowly learning to stop oversharing. And one thing that has helped me to maintain this position of not oversharing is that I have a list of things that I will never share with certain people, and I made note of those things, right? So maybe that's what you can do going forward. Make a list of things you will never share, or a list of things you will never share with certain people. For example, for me personally, there are certain personal details that I will never share with my colleagues, like on a random work chit chat with a colleague. There's certain personal things that I have made a note of that I will never share. Why? Because I understand the dynamics of that environment, and some private details are just completely unnecessary, right, to share with people in that context. So for you, maybe you need to make a list like that. What are the things that you will never share with colleagues, or what are the things that you will never share with your family? I know some people have a rule where they're like, there's certain things I will never share about my husband to my father or my mother or my siblings, right? So there's certain things I'll never share about my marriage online, certain things that I'll never share about my marriage to even my closest friends. So people have those kinds of boundaries where they have made note of that. So maybe make a list of things. I think that would help you as some form of guiding principle, when you know that, okay, you know what, with XX person, I will never share XXX, right? Online, I will never share XXX. At work, I will never share XXX. With my family, I will never share XXX, right? So when you have that at the back of your mind, it helps you. So when you find yourself in a situation where you are tempted to share certain information, you know that, okay, I have already decided that I will not share this, so let's talk about something else. All right. Essentially, it is okay to decide not to share something, and it's okay to decide not to share something just yet. That is fine. I also wanted to point out here, I think it's really important for me to point out here that there are certain things that we could decide to share, and they could be private, but because we know that it could be helpful to someone, then we go ahead to share. But I just want to put a caveat here, because again, it goes back to what is the motivation behind sharing that thing? Why are you sharing it? If it's coming from a place of healing, then it's fine. If it's coming from a place of unprocessed trauma, maybe then we need to not just talk about that yet. I'll give you an example. For me personally, I know that I have shared multiple times online in my videos, my podcast, and even my book. I talked about being sexually abused as a child, right? And the reason why I shared this was because I felt like it was important for me to share that story so that it can bring healing to other people who have gone through something similar. But before I even decided to share, I had to go and ask myself, why do you want to share it? Are you looking for a pity party, or is this coming from a place of healing? And when I knew that this is coming from a place of healing, I'm not seeking to gather a group of people who, I'm not seeking to use that as my identity or anchor, or try to get engagement by anchoring on that, right? I shared that because I felt there are people out there in the world who are still struggling, maybe with their self-esteem, their sense of self-worth, because of being they're being sexually abused, right, at some point in their lives. So it was important for me to share at that point, but I was coming from a place of healing. Sharing is good, sharing is important, but you also have to be mindful where you share, when you share, and with whom you decide to share. If you feel like, oh, you just want to talk to somebody about something, or you just need to pour out something, maybe go to God or talk to a very trusted friend, somebody that you know and you can vouch for, that really loves you and cares about you. Or you go to therapy and talk to your therapist, rather than just randomly sharing private and intimate details to just anyone. Just because someone shared something private with you doesn't mean that you need to reciprocate by doing that just to placate the person's feelings or make the person feel seen. You can empathize with a person, you can show understanding of what a person is going through, or show sympathy without you reciprocating by oversharing as well, especially if you don't feel comfortable talking about it with that person, or if you don't really trust that person will be able to keep that private information private. Okay. And also the same thing too online. Certain things, please don't bring it to the internet. I feel like, certain things don't just bring it to the internet, because not everyone on the internet is your friend, and not everyone on the internet wants the best thing for you. The fact that 10 million people are following you doesn't mean that they want those 10 million people want the best for you. So there are certain things that are just best kept to yourself offline. I just feel like I need to say this, because I feel like these days people don't really understand it. People kind of push the boundary. People don't really understand that certain things should not be on the internet. Certain details about your life should not be on the internet. Certain private information about your life should not be on the internet. So as I said, go make a list of those things that you would never share on the internet, or in some context, offline context. Make a list of that, and I hope that helps you to guard your mouth gates. Anyway, so we've come to the end of today's episode. I hope you found it helpful and insightful. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you team I don't share anything at all? Or are you team, I don't have any problem with sharing? I think vulnerability is great. I think we should not try to stop people from sharing what they have in their hearts, and we should not stop people from sharing whatever information that they want to share wherever they want to share it, whenever. Let me know what you think. Put it all down in the comment section. All right. So, but anyway, if you know anyone that you think should definitely listen to this episode, please do well to share it with them. And if you are watching this on YouTube and you have not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Trying to hit 100 subscribers by the end of August. So yeah, really grateful if you could please hit the like button and please subscribe. And please also take it a step further, click on the notification bell so that you are notified whenever we have a new episode up on YouTube. Okay, but on that note, thank you so much for listening. If you're listening to this, thank you for watching if you're watching on YouTube, and I'll see you again in my next video, my next episode. Bye bye.